Have you tried doing a high round back adjustment, but you didn't get the results you were hoping for? Today I want to look at a few different curve shapes that I've seen on students in my bodice fitting classes, and I want to show you a fitting adjustment that will help you if you just have a little bump at the base of your neck. Before we get into that though, I want to show you the difference between having a bump or a little curve at the base of your neck versus having a high round back. If you check out my dress form here from the side view, I think you can see I have two curves going on. I have a little curve here at the base of the neck, and then I have more of a high round back situation a little bit lower. And I'm going to turn it to the full back so you can see it from this vantage point as well. Typically, if you have a high round back, it's a curve that changes the whole shape of your back because your spine is curved, right? And then sometimes, and I'm going to take that off now that we've seen that, sometimes you just have a little curve up here at the base of the neck. And what I'm noticing about this curve is it's less about the shape that the spine is making, and it's more about having, you know, a curve up here that is kind of isolated to the base of the neck area. And I'm just going to put a half muslin on here to show you. Okay, and if we look at it now from the side, let's look at it from this side with the muslin over it. You know, sometimes you'll see you have like a little bit of a bump here. Sometimes it causes your armhole to peek out. You can see that the waistline is touching the waist tape at the side seam, but then when you turn to center back, I think you can see there's about a half an inch of space between the bottom of the waistline of the muslin and my waist tape. If I were to take this off, let me just take it off quickly, you can see that now the fabric reaches the waist tape. The reason why I'm showing you that is because sometimes if you have a curve, it shows at the neckline and you can't, the base of the neckline is too low, or sometimes it shows down at the waist because it's too short because the fabric has to go over the curve. So this little curve needs a little bit more extra length, but what I want you to notice here is it doesn't need anything over near the armhole because this is all a standard shape for your back. There's no extra curve here. So we want to focus on this little area under the neck. Now what I've discovered is, I'm just going to put this half muslin on. I took one of my muslins and I tested this theory. I've also tested it on students, so I know this works. But what I want to show you here is if you can release the fabric like this, and I think you can see what I'm doing here. I'm basically creating a situation where you can shape the muslin by just spreading this area under the neck, leaving the rest alone to shape this area, give it extra length, and allow it to hang smoothly. So I think you can see that because we let this release, my waist goes to the tape and it stays along the tape the entire way because we didn't need to add any extra here. If we were to do a traditional high round adjustment, these slash and spreads would go all the way to the armhole, and potentially it could make this part of your back muslin too long, and then that can cause a wrinkle. So I like to isolate where I'm adjusting for what we're adjusting for, and in this case we're focusing right here on the back of the base of the neck to deal with this curve. So how do you do that on your paper pattern? That's what I would like to share with you now. Okay, so I have a back pattern piece here. I'm going to draw some slash lines under the base of the neck. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a vertical line like this. This is going to be where I'm going to stop adjusting. And then I'm going to give myself a few slashes. Now you can use the information you get from spreading your muslin, you know, like I shared here, right? You can use this information to determine how much you needed, or if your muslin is, you know, picked up between the waist and the bottom of your waistline of your muslin, you can use that amount for the amount you need. Make sure you check above as well, because sometimes what happens is the back neckline won't be all the way up where it needs to be, and then also the waistline is picking up at center back. So look at those two things very carefully, and that will help you determine how much you're going to need to spread the pattern for this adjustment. So I'm going to do 3 slashes here like this. Then what I'm going to do is I am going to start by, I'm going to create a pivot at the end of the shoulder seam, and then I'm going to cut my slashes like this, and I'm cutting all the way to this vertical line like this. Okay, so you can see when you create a pivot right here, I then have the ability to move this out. I don't want this to push out like this, but you need to release it. So what I'm going to do here is I want to be able to lift this out a little bit so I can spread these things the amount that I needed. Thing like this. All right, and you can see you get this nice shape in here, you know, to get over that little bump that you have. So let's say I like how this is looking, right? Now, a couple things are going on here. So I'm just going to stick a piece of paper underneath here to keep it nice and neat, actually. So I can spread this back out. And I'll color it in so you can see what I'm doing. But basically, you can see I have all this nice space here. Okay, and I'm going to tape all this shut now. Okay, now depending on, and I'm just going to color in, this is where we've added. So we've added all of this, we've added this, and I'm just coloring it in because it's white on white. So when it's all said and done, we have all this nice length in here, and I'm just going to come in here with my French curve, and I'm just going to kind of true this up a little bit. So see how we have just this little bit of curve right in here? You can see we've isolated the adjustment to underneath the base of the neck. This is working out really nicely. I'm going to cut this so you can see the final shape of the center back. I think you can see it just makes that subtle curve there. If you don't need all that little bit of extra, you can always sew it a little bit straighter when you're working on your fit muslin, but this is going to isolate the adjustment versus slashing and spreading all the way to the armhole edge. Now there is one thing we have to look at here. When I did that, if I were to fold this paper back right here, I just want to show you, I probably shortened, and I'm going to do it like this. I'm going to put it like this. So if I make a little mark right here, okay, I did shorten my shoulder about 1/4 of an inch here. I'm not really affecting where the actual tip of the, you know, this is not affected, but I did take out about 1/4 of an inch there. So if you want to put that back so it matches the front, I think what I would do is something just very simple. I think I would come from the armhole up like this, And then you're going to guess what I'm going to do here. I'm literally going to create a pivot here. And I'm just going to spread the shoulder back out that 1/4 of an inch so I'm not affecting anything else. You know, if I just pivot over here at the armhole, I can spread that back out that little bit. Okay, so now I've added back in, you know, the 1/4 inch that I took off over here. All right, so if it works out that your pivot overlaps and it shortens your shoulder and you want to put it back, just put it back like that. And then to true up the entire shoulder seam now, which is very wonky, what you're going to do is you're going to touch your ruler on the original shoulder seam at the neck, the original shoulder seam at the armhole, and just go ahead and draw yourself a new line. Okay, so that will fix the actual shoulder. So I think this is a really good alternative for slashing and spreading across the entire back if you only need a little bit of extra length and ease.